So let's talk about human physiology. Like there are a bit of parts like breathing and respiration, body fluids and circulation, excretory products and their elimination, locomotion and movement, neural control and coordination, chemical coordination and regulation.
Sure. Human physiology is fascinating because it's all about how we keep ourselves alive and kicking. Breathing and respiration are how we exchange gases, oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. Circulation is like our body's transport highway with blood carrying nutrients and waste. The excretory system handles removing wastes, like a cleanup crew. Locomotion's all about muscles and bones letting us move. Neural control is the electrical signaling of nerves, while chemical coordination uses hormones as chemical messengers. All these systems are perfectly orchestrated to keep us in balance.
Can you give example first, very basic?
Absolutely. Let's take breathing. When you inhale, your diaphragm contracts and moves downward, creating space in your chest cavity. Air flows in, filling your lungs with oxygen. When you exhale, the diaphragm relaxes and carbon dioxide leaves your body. That's the simplest level of respiration.
So let's deep dive into each of the section like one seven section one by one.
I'm all in. We can dive into each system step by step. Just let me know which one you want to start with, and we'll break it down thoroughly before moving to the next.
No, we can understand every step using one example of the human body. Actually, it's a human physiology, and then we can relate every part and discuss every aspect while understanding one process.
I love that approach. Let's pick a process we can connect everything to. For example, we could follow what happens when you exercise. You breathe faster, there's our respiration. Your heart pumps harder, circulation. Muscles contract, locomotion. Waste builds up, excretion. Your brain controls coordination, and hormones regulate long term adjustments. By tracing how your body handles exercise, we can hit every system along the way. Sound good?
Yeah, we can start.
Great. Let's start at the beginning with exercise and respiration. As soon as you begin exercising, your muscles need more energy. To produce it, your cells use oxygen and release carbon dioxide. Your breathing rate increases, your diaphragm and chest muscles work harder to pull in more oxygen and expel more CO2. That's our respiratory system kicking into gear.
No, but I don't need the very basic part. Can we deep dive into each at the cellular and molecular level? What's actually happening? Then we can understand the every processes.
Absolutely. At the cellular level, when you exercise, muscle cells increase their demand for ATP, the energy currency. Oxygen is essential for aerobic respiration and mitochondria. Hemoglobin in red blood cells delivers oxygen to these tissues. Inside mitochondria, oxygen acts as the final electron acceptor in the electron transport chain. This chain pumps protons and generates a proton gradient, driving ATP synthase to produce ATP. Meanwhile, CO2 is a byproduct. At the molecular level, chemoreceptors sense rising CO2 and acidity, signaling your brain to adjust breathing and heart rate. This intricate coordination keeps your cells fed and wastes removed.
So, muscle cells increase their demand for ATP, the energy currency. Oxygen is essential for aerobic respiration in mitochondria. Hemoglobin in red blood cells delivers oxygen to these tissues inside mitochondria. Oxygen act as the final electron acceptor in the electron transport chain. The chain pumps proton and generate a proton gradient, driving ATP synthesis. Uh, syn- uh,
Exactly. And as ATP is produced, the muscle fibers can continue contracting, enabling movement. As this process goes on, chemical coordination comes into play. Hormones like adrenaline adjust your heart rate and glucose availability. Your nervous system coordinates everything, ensuring muscles, lungs, and heart work in sync. So, from the molecular dance of oxygen and ATP to the whole body orchestration, every system joins in.
so, chemical coordination, can you explain that part?
Chemical coordination relies on hormones, which are signaling molecules released by endocrine glands. For instance, when you exercise, the adrenal glands release adrenaline. Adrenaline binds to receptors on target cells, triggering a cascade of reactions. It increases heart rate, dilates airways, and releases glucose from the liver. In parallel, insulin or glucagon may regulate blood sugar. Each hormone acts as a precise chemical messenger, ensuring that every organ system works together in harmony.
Okay, what do you mean by regulate blood sugar here, meaning?
Regulating blood sugar means keeping the glucose level in your blood within a healthy range. After you eat, glucose rises and the pancreas releases insulin. Insulin helps cells absorb glucose for energy or storage. When glucose drops, the pancreas releases glucagon, prompting the liver to release stored glucose. This balance ensures your cells have a steady fuel supply. Too little or too much glucose can be harmful.
So how that insulin is related? Can you explain that part?
Insulin is a hormone produced by your pancreas, specifically by beta cells in the islets of Langerhans. When your blood glucose rises, like after a meal, insulin is released into the bloodstream. Insulin binds to receptors on cells, especially muscle, fat, and liver cells, allowing glucose to enter. Inside, glucose is either used for energy or stored as glycogen. Thus, insulin lowers blood sugar, ensuring cells get fuel and keeping glucose levels stable.
Okay, how that process occurred naturally actually.
It's all based on a feedback loop. Your pancreas constantly monitors blood glucose. When you eat, glucose from digested food enters your bloodstream, and the pancreas detects this rise. In response, it releases insulin. When glucose levels drop, like between meals or during exercise, insulin release slows. If glucose drops too low, the pancreas releases glucagon instead, prompting the liver to release stored glucose. So it's a finely tuned natural system maintaining balance.
So what you are suggesting actually, how they monitor this blood glucose?
Your pancreas has specialized cells, beta cells, that act like tiny glucose sensors. These cells have proteins on their surface that detect how much glucose is in the blood. When glucose levels rise, these cells trigger the release of insulin containing vesicles. When glucose falls, insulin release slows down. It's essentially a biochemical readout system where glucose concentration directly triggers hormonal response.
That what do you mean by this glucose concentration directly triggers hormonal response?
I mean that the beta cells in your pancreas sense how much glucose is in the blood. When glucose is high, these cells release insulin. When glucose is low, they slow insulin release or release glucagon instead. It's like a direct trigger. The concentration of glucose itself determines which hormone gets released and how much. It's a natural feedback loop. Glucose levels tell your body how to respond.
So what you are suggesting that uh,
In a
concentration
nutshell,
actually this concentration is a natural process that play a role here, not concentration.
no worries. In simple terms, the glucose concentration in your blood is like a natural signal. As glucose rises or falls, your body automatically adjusts hormone release, insulin or glucagon. This ensures your cells get the right fuel at the right time. It's a beautifully natural self-regulating system.
Okay.
If
Okay.
anything else about these processes piques your curiosity, just let me know. I'm always happy to dive deeper.
So, I will again list out the content: breathing and respiration, body fluids and circulation, excretory product and their elimination, locomotion and movement, neural control and coordination, chemical coordination and regulations. The process I list down for the human physiology. Can you make comment how that is very how they are actually working there?
All those systems are essentially partners in a whole body symphony. Breathing and respiration pull in oxygen, which circulation distributes along with nutrients. Excretion eliminates waste products generated by metabolism. Locomotion uses muscles, while neural control coordinates movement and perception. Chemical coordination, through hormones, fine tunes the long term response. In short, each system plays a role in keeping you balanced, whether it's fueling cells, removing wastes, or coordinating your actions. so that the entire body works as one integrated whole.
Can you suggest one or more interesting fact that fascinates and how they are actually working at the molecular or cellular or organ level things?
One fascinating fact is that hemoglobin not only carries oxygen, but changes shape when it binds to it. At the molecular level, this shape change makes it easier for more oxygen to bind. Another marvel, neurons communicate with electric signals and neurotransmitters. At the synapse, neurotransmitters are released, cross the gap, and bind to receptors on the next neuron. This molecular dance lets your thoughts, sensations, and movements happen in milliseconds.
How that is possible that it captured on milliseconds?
It's possible because neurons are built for speed. When a neuron fires, it creates an electrical signal called an action potential. This travels down the axon at speeds up to hundreds of miles per hour. When it reaches the synapse, neurotransmitters are released almost instantly, on the order of milliseconds, binding to the next cell. These tiny distances and fast chemical reactions make rapid communication between cells possible.
So what next you are suggesting?
If you're still curious, we could zoom in on any other system, or even relate this back to how these physiological processes adapt to different conditions, like stress, sleep, or even extreme environments. Just let me know what excites you next.
What next thing that fascinates you about all these processes discussed?
I'm always fascinated by neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. When you learn or adapt, neurons form new connections at the cellular level. Repeated activity strengthens these pathways. Cells that fire together wire together. So your brain structure changes based on what you do. And that adaptability keeps us learning and changing throughout life.
What was that neuroplasticity to ability to write, rewire itself? What is the meaning, actual, how that is happening at the brain level?
Neuroplasticity means your brain can reorganize by forming new neural connections. When you experience something repeatedly, learning a skill, recovering from injury, or adapting to change, neurons that are repeatedly active together strengthen their connections. At the brain level, synapses, the gaps between neurons, change strength. New dendrites can grow, and sometimes entire networks reorganize. This plasticity allows the brain to adapt, learn, and even recover after damage.
So what you are suggesting that recovery from injury, adapting to change, neuron that are repeatedly active together strengthen their connection.
Yes, exactly. When certain neurons are repeatedly activated, like when you practice a skill or work on rehab after an injury, the connections between them become stronger and more efficient. This is often summed up by the phrase neurons that fire together wire together. Over time, this strengthening of pathways helps you adapt, regain function, or learn something new.
So neurons are repeatedly activated. How can you tell that part?
We can tell neurons are repeatedly activated by observing patterns of electrical activity. In real research, techniques like EEG or fMRI measure brain activity. On a cellular level, scientists use electrodes to record individual neuron firing. In everyday life, repeated practice, habits, or tasks you do often are what activate those circuits again and again, reinforcing those pathways.
Oh, what was that reinforcing those pathways a meaning?
Reinforcing pathways means that each time a pattern of activity happens, those neural connections get stronger and more efficient. The synapses involved release more neurotransmitters or become more sensitive, making it easier for signals to travel that same route again. Over time, it's like a well worn path. Those connections become faster and more reliable, making that thought or action more automatic.
So, how so do the neuron also when something is happening, the response reaches to the brain. So, do they also store that information, or do they modify their neuron also in order to store that information?
Yes, storing information involves neurons modifying their connections. When you experience something, patterns of neural activity lead to changes in synaptic strength. This is called synaptic plasticity. Long-term potentiation, LTP, is a process where repeated activity makes synapses stronger, effectively storing their memory. So while neurons don't store files, they adjust their networks, strengthening or weakening pathways to encode what you've learned or remembered.
So, again, another things that fascinates you about this breathing, respiration, body fluids and circulation, excretory product and their elimination, locomotion and movement, neural control and coordination, chemical coordination and regulation.
I'm fascinated by how the heart synchronizes with respiration. When you breathe in, your heart rate slightly speeds up, and when you breathe out, it slows down. This is called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and it's controlled by the autonomic nervous system. At the molecular level, neurotransmitters like acetylcholine and norepinephrine regulate this rhythm. It's a beautiful example of how breathing and circulation are coordinated, moment to moment, by your nervous and chemical systems.
So, heart synchronizes with respiration. So when we breathe, our heart rate slightly speeds up, and when we breathe out, it slows down. Okay. But how they observe this thing?
Your body detects these shifts through specialized sensors. Stretch receptors in your lungs sense when you inhale and exhale, while baroreceptors in arteries track pressure. This information reaches the brainstem, which adjusts signals via the autonomic nervous system. That's how your body observes each breath and fine tunes heart rate, almost subconsciously.
Fine tune heart rate meaning.
Fine tune means your body makes small moment to moment adjustments to your heart rate. When you inhale, your brain signals your heart to speed up slightly. When you exhale, it signals it to slow down a bit. This subtle modulation optimizes oxygen delivery and blood flow, keeping everything in sync.
Okay, another thing that fascinates you more about book, also breathing, respiration, blood fluids and circulation, excretory product and their elimination, locomotion and movement, neural control and coordination, chemical coordination and regulations. All these processes occur in a stepwise manner actually.
Absolutely, they unfold in a beautifully integrated sequence. For example, you breathe in oxygen, it enters your blood, your heart pumps it to tissues. Cells use it for energy, producing waste like carbon dioxide. Blood carries that waste away, and you exhale it. Meanwhile, muscles and nerves coordinate movement, and hormones regulate longer term adjustments. Each step sets up the next, creating a seamless cycle of life.
Okay, can you give more complex example in order to understand the whole process again?
Let's think about running a race. As you start, your brain anticipates the effort, releasing adrenaline, raising your heart and breathing rate. Your muscles contract using ATP. Oxygen and glucose rush in, CO2 and waste rush out. Sensors detect rising CO2, speeding up breathing. Your brain coordinates each stride. After finishing, your parasympathetic system calms everything down, restoring balance. That complex interplay of respiration, circulation, muscle activity, and chemical signals is your body in perfect coordination.
How our brain coordinates it each stride that you are mentioning.
Your brain, specifically the motor cortex and cerebellum, sends precise signals down your spinal cord to activate the right muscles in the right order. Sensory feedback, like from your joints and muscles, loops back to the brain, allowing constant adjustment. This means each stride is coordinated, balanced, and adapted in real time, so you don't even have to think about it consciously.
How that signal is not lost, and how precise that signal goes, and how precisely that uh, uh, in, uh, interact and response.
The precision comes from both structure and speed. Neurons are arranged in organized pathways like a circuit. Myelination, a fatty coating, insulates many neurons, speeding up signals. At synapses, neurotransmitters are released in just the right amount. Feedback from muscles tells your brain if the movement is correct, allowing constant fine tuning. This tight loop of rapid signaling and feedback ensures your movements are accurate and coordinated every step of the way.
Okay.
If you ever want to explore more of these wonders or apply them to your own work, just let me know.
Can you give conclusion what we discussed in this chat till now?
We explored how human physiology works as a coordinated system. We began with cellular respiration fueling muscles, moved through chemical coordination like insulin and hormones, and discussed how neural control fine tunes movement. We saw how breathing syncs with heart rate and how the brain coordinates each step. Ultimately, all these processes work in harmony, moment to moment, to keep us alive, moving, and adapting.
One more thing that fascinates, and that fascinates not you, but actually fascinates nature, that how human body is very self-designed, uh, unique architecture that works by various response sensors and that thinks in its own. And
What's truly awe-inspiring is that the body is like a self-regulating ecosystem. Without any conscious input, sensors like for oxygen, pressure, or temperature trigger responses that maintain balance. From your immune system fighting infection to your brain fine-tuning hormones, the body is a masterpiece of nature's design, adapting, learning, and thriving in real time.
okay, thank you.